when we're first talking about contact, this sounds weird, but contact is when you first see, hear, or smell the person. See, hear, or smell the person. So when you first see them, remember, it's not just about romance. When you come into a classroom for the first time and you're looking for a place to sit, generally you look around to see the person that seems most like you, seems most friendly, seems most welcoming. So that's when you first see the person. When you first hear, there are a lot of voices that we're immediately attracted to. We could listen to Morgan Freeman talk about penguins marching across Antarctica for 2 hours just because we love to hear his voice. Sometimes we're attracted to people because we hear an accent. And for some reason, in many people's minds, an Australian accent is fantastic, whereas an accent from another place, not so much. There's also hearing somebody that we don't like it. Like, that's really how you laugh? Or your sneeze sounds like that. And so we could be turned off, actually, by the sound of their voice or different things that they say. And then finally, smell. That's the weirdest one. But smell is so, so powerful. If you meet somebody that wears the same cologne or the same perfume as somebody, if it was romance, you guys just broke up, then that's going to bring back some of those feelings of, ooh, I can't be around it, or attraction. There's a lot that goes along with feelings. When we went to sell our house for the first time, I put in some homemade bread in the bread machine so that when the viewers, the people that wanted to check out the house came in, there was bread baking in the oven. And we got 3 offers on that first day because the smell of the house, it makes you feel cozy. I feel at home here. This is so wonderful. Think about how many smells you put on even this morning. You have a smell for your shampoo, and then a different smell for your shaving cream or your aftershave, a different smell for your deodorant. Nowadays they have really weird names like Swagger for your deodorant, and then you have different smells for your toothpaste, each one having a different smell. Those of you who wear lotion, I mean, there are smells all around us because it's such an important part of our lives. Think about Bath and Body Works and how much money they make on smell alone. So having that be part of your contact, very, very powerful. So if you are sitting next to someone who you don't like their smell, it's really hard to get over that. All right, so contact happens in a couple of stages. Now, they've done research, and within 4 minutes, we decide whether or not we would like to pursue, getting to know the other person. Whether or not we would like to pursue getting to know the other. So, within 4 minutes, we decide. So let me give you a scenario. If I am being introduced to somebody at a party, hey, Tanya, this is Joe. Joe, this is Tanya. So within 4 minutes, I could decide whether or not I want to say, well, it was a pleasure meeting you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And then walking away. Or after 4 minutes, I could be enjoying myself, maybe even longer, and then say, hey, I'm going to go get a drink. Can I get you something? Kind of symbolizing, hey, I'm not finished with this discussion. I hope that it continues. So within 4 minutes, I can kind of go, okay, no, or, let's see this person. Kind of interesting. So what can you tell about a person within 4 minutes? So there are 3 things. There's physical attraction. There is personality traits. And finally, initial conversation. So those are the 3 things that you can tell within 4 minutes. So when we're talking about physical attraction, you need to know that it's what you do with what you have. It's not that you were born with perfectly symmetrical features or everything on your face is like porcelain. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's what you do with what you have. How you dress yourself, how you prepare yourself, how you decide to wear your hair, So everybody has a chance because it's what you do with what you have. There are people that have very thin bodies and very muscular bodies, and we're all attracted to different things. There are some people that like a very willow-like body, and there's some people that like the curves. So, again, everybody has a chance. I want you to take a second, and I want you to think about the person that you are either currently in a relationship with, or somebody that you just broke up with, or someone that you have a crush on and you think legitimately, maybe I could ask him out. So I want you to think about that person, and I want you to rate them on a scale from 1 to 10 of physical attractiveness. 10 being super attractive and 1 being, oh, that's too bad. So you have that number in your head. And now I want you to put yourself on that same scale of attractiveness of 1 to 10. And now compare those numbers. So most of the time, we are attracted to people that we would rate the same as us, plus or minus 1. So if you gave yourself a 7, for example, you would probably be attracted to 6, 7s, and 8s. So why is that? Maybe at the contact stage, it's because you think, well, there's a chance. You don't want to get shot down by shooting too high. But what happens if these people that perceive, remember, it's a perceive, it's based on your self-concept and your self-esteem, how you see yourself. If they perceive a difference, then sometimes it can get in the way of the relationship, because it could be feelings of jealousy. Like, I know if you go over there that there are so many pretty girls. I know it's not about you, but they're going to be throwing themselves at you, and I just don't want you to go. So you have that, please stay with me. You're so much better. I'm so lucky to have you, please. And then there's this imbalance, and that's not healthy in a relationship. So generally, we're attracted to people that we rate the same as us, plus or minus 1. So what do you think about those relationships where you think, why is that guy with that girl? Again, go back to self-esteem and self-concept. You might think that that person is a 9, fantastic, so much going on. But if that one says, no way I'm a 9. My sister, now she's really pretty. I've never been the pretty one. I've really never even had a boyfriend. And so she might see herself much farther down the scale than you, because that's how she sees herself. So that might be one of the reasons why you sometimes see couples that you can't really figure out why they're working. It's because of how they feel. And there might be someone who thinks that they're not very attractive, but you know what? I'm a great catch. I treat people well. I'm generous. I've got a great job. People are lucky to be with me. And so then they might rate themselves higher. So it's physical attraction. What I want you to know, what you do with what you have. We all have a chance. And then finally, we're generally attracted to people that we rate the same as us, plus or minus 1. Okay, so for personality traits, these are going to be general personality traits. You can kind of tell about somebody's sense of humor if they're witty, or if they're sarcastic, if they are funny, if they're introverted. Some of the other personality traits like intelligence, because people can put on a show, right? And it's not like smart people go around using all of that big words to impress everybody. You can't tell if somebody's going to be loyal or trustworthy. These are just general personality traits. And again, we are attracted to different things. Sometimes extroverts, outgoing people, think that they are the correct ones and that the introverts are broken and need to become more outgoing. But we're all attracted to something else. If you would imagine going into a party, for example, and you're walking through the front door and you look around and you see that there's a group of people and maybe 7 people, and they're sitting around, they're talking, and there's one person who is telling a story, and they're telling a story and they're so involved, everybody's laughing. And you look over here, and there's maybe 2, 3 people on the couch. Which are you more attracted to? Do you want to go and join in that circle and be a part of the laughing and the fun and the games and get in on that? Or are you more comfortable going to the 2 or 3 people and just having a more quiet conversation and getting to know one another? So not everybody is going to want to go in and be a part of all of that action. There are people who want to be more mild, so to speak. So we're all attracted to different things. You've got to always remember that. And it's true with personality traits as well. And then finally, initial conversation. Now this is a deal breaker, everybody. Deal breaker. It is so difficult to like somebody if you can't talk. If you ask them a question and they just give you one-word answers and it's like dragging information out of them, that's too hard. You get tired, you move on. Perhaps during the initial conversation, this person is so hot, and you like the way that they act and they work with other people, but then when you hear them speak, perhaps they say something that you're like, are you kidding me? You honestly believe that? And then you're out. Maybe they have some sort of vocabulary that you don't like. Maybe they swear a lot or something. Maybe they have opinions that you don't care for, and you start to realize that during the conversation. So a lot can happen that you go, okay, I think you're pretty and I think we could have fun together, but the conversation has to work to build that connection. Okay, so in this model, we've got the contact all the way through, and now we're ready to go on to involvement. So tell me, these people have not been on a date yet. They have not been just the two of them going somewhere. They are still getting to know each other. So the contact stage could be like 5 hours in one night to kind of figure out what's going on. It could also be, hey, I met you last time. Yeah, how have you been? And that happens a few times. It happens in your classes when you first talk to somebody and then eventually you start to say, hey, can I borrow your pencil? Oh, how did you do on that test? And that sort of grows as you do that. So within 4 minutes, yes, you can decide, but then this continues a little bit more before you even think about going to the involvement stage. So let's say that everything went well, and we're going to try this and move to involvement. So So involvement is where you explore interests. And look for common ground. Explore interests and look for common ground. Okay. So, I met you at the party, we've talked a couple of times, and I do want to see what else is underneath. So, this happens in 3 stages as well. So, the first is that there's testing. So, this type of testing is where you ask about work, hobbies, goals, things like that. And you might think, how am I going to get talking about goals already? I mean, that's deep stuff. What do I have, a questionnaire? It's amazing how much information you can learn if you just ask the right questions and have a good conversation. This is such an important part of the relationship process. If you can get this stage right, then all the other things you don't have to worry about as much. You don't have to worry about deterioration, repair, if you can get this right. There's an analogy that I want you to think about when you're talking about relationships and connecting with others. Unfortunately, in the dating world, there used to be this idea, hopefully we're going away from that. This used to be an idea that women were waiting for men to pick them. So, imagine, if you will, like the ice cream aisle at a grocery store. And all the girls line up, and they wait for somebody to pick them. And just like the ice cream, pick me, I'm slow churned. Pick me, I've got new additional candy bars. Pick me, I have, and they just go on and on with why I should pick each of these ice creams. There's so many, and we just wait. We wait to be selected. And so sometimes women compete against each other. I'm shiny and smart. Well, I have this much money, and so we just compete waiting, that is not the way relationships should be built at all. No matter your gender, no matter your preference, getting together with people as friends or romantically should be like a puzzle. And you are looking for your puzzle piece. You're looking for somebody that fits with you. And you don't have to be on a date to do this. You could be put into small groups in your communication class, and as you work with other people, you can kind of say, hey, I like people who do this. Hey, I thought that was really fun about this person. I like that. And so you work and go, okay, who am I and what do I like to be around? That's what you're doing, is you're looking for this puzzle piece. So keep that in mind as we ask about work and hobbies, goals, and things like that. There's not a right or wrong answer. One person is not better than the other. It's just a different shape of puzzle. So in order for this to work, one of the tricky things is that you have to know what puzzle shape you are in the analogy, which means you have to know who you are and what you want. What do you want your life to look like? So until you can figure that out, when you go around meeting people, then how are you going to know if they are a good fit? So you've got to figure this out. So when people talk about age, I don't think it's as much about age as it is about knowing who you are, what you want, what your life you want your life to look like. So if we ask about work, for example, let's take an airplane pilot or a flight attendant. So would you want to be in a relationship with either one of those? And there are some people that say yes, because you get frequent flyer miles, and I love to travel, and I can get those buddy passes, and that just seems like a great way to explore the world. Maybe those people, you're okay being alone. You like reading books. You like just hanging out by yourself. And so when the person comes back from their trip, yeah, you love being together, you make the most of it. The time you have together really counts before they go back on the next leg of their trip. So they're totally fine with this. And there are others that would not want to be in a relationship with someone that was a flight attendant or a pilot because they're not around like for days at a time. And you worry about where they're going to be. You wonder what they're doing. The kids might not have dad around. Where's mom when we need her? So many things. And so, no, I don't want to date somebody like that. Now, it doesn't mean that either one is wrong. It's just what works for you. Okay? So when somebody talks about the work that they do, you have to start thinking, okay, what would that look like in real life? Taking a term that we used years ago, a garbage man, for example. All right, so, oh yes, I work for the city of Tempe, and I go and gather the garbage and stuff. And people go, ooh. Okay, let's think about it. What is the life of someone that collects garbage and recycling here in this area? For the most part, they don't ever get out of the truck, right? There's an arm that goes, dump, and down. So it's not like in the movies or in your imagination where they would come home after rolling around in the garbage. That doesn't happen. And then you think about what would their schedule be like? Okay, so they would get up really, really early. So they probably would not see the kids before they went to work. But what time does someone who works in that industry get home? They're probably home by 2 or 3. And so every afternoon, if they had kids, they would be there to go to soccer practice, to be a coach for the Little League team, to help with dinner, to be a part of life. So is that something that you want? And if you look online, people that work for the city and collect the garbage and recycling make great money. And they have good benefits. So think about it. What do you want your life to look like? Would you like somebody that was home every day, like 2 or 3? What about if they want to be a musician or an actor or something like that? That is fine. Good. Pursue your dreams. There is somebody that wants to do that same thing. If you're going to be an actor or a musician, you're going to probably go to California, maybe New York, musicians, maybe Nashville. There are other little places, but that's That's what your life is going to look like. There's not a whole lot going on in smaller towns. So if someone says yes, they want to be a playwright, or yes, they want to be an actor, if you want to go to Hollywood and you would love to live there and you wouldn't mind that lifestyle, you are going to find someone who would support you in that. On the other hand, if you kind of want to stay here in Mesa, you have your family in Mesa and you don't want to really travel, then don't fall in love with someone who needs to have a job in another area. So, how do you stop yourself from falling in love? Your brain says, hey, this isn't what I want my life to look like. Then you need to stop seeing them. If once you get to this testing phase and you realize, wait, we have a lot of differences, even though they might be attractive and you might have great conversations, if you want your life to be one direction and they want it to be another, that's only going to lead to trouble. That's only going to lead to heartache, so that when you get to the deterioration stage, you are going to fight about the same things over and over again. So instead, use your brain and say, hey, this was a great time getting to know you. I wish you the very best, but we just want different things. Stop dating them, and then you won't fall in love. So if we talk about hobbies, for example, I wouldn't want to be with a golfer. And it's not because I'm controlling, it's just that after my husband works all week long for 10 hours a day, to then on Saturday go, yeah, I'm going to be gone for another 6 hours, spending about $100 while I hit a golf ball around. No. Do you know that we have a lawn, we have a garden, you have a son, I want to go and spend time together? And so for me, time and money at the golf course, what about me? So, it's one thing if I fell in love with someone who loved golfing and then complained every time he or she wanted to go out. You always go again. But guess what? I fell in love with someone that doesn't like golfing. So we don't have that issue. There are a lot of hobbies that take quite a bit of time and some of them that take quite a bit of money. And if you aren't supported in that, that's something that just doesn't work. If you are talking to someone and they happen to mention video games or something that they enjoy doing, you need to know that they enjoy video games now and that they're going to enjoy video games in the future. This isn't going to go away. Once we get married, they'll stop, or once there's kids, I'm sure. No, that's what they enjoy. And so know what their hobbies are. If you want to be with someone that is a hunter, especially in other areas where you get the big game, the elk and stuff, what's your life going to look like if you are in a relationship with a hunter? They go away generally for a few days at a time, sleeping out in tents and things like that. If you are going to be with a hunter, you're going to have guns in your home. If you're going to be with a hunter, then if the person catches the game and brings it home, you are going to have a freezer full of meat that will last you all year. And that's going to be what you need to prep and eat all year long. Now, there are those of you that were raised in families that were hunters and you loved it. It was the time when the family really bonded. You were away from all the other pressures, and it wasn't actually about the hunting. It was more about being together. So you like that lifestyle. You like the idea. So you will be attracted to somebody who enjoys hunting. On the other hand, if you hate guns, it's going to be tricky for you to be with a hunter, somebody that wants to go out and do something that you don't agree with. Okay? So hobbies can be actually quite influential in your relationships. Even something as simple as hiking, you can love hiking, and if the other person doesn't, when you first get together, it's exciting. Yes, we went on this new hike, and I've never loved hiking like this before, but that's because you're like Twitter-pated and excited. But once you become a couple, and every weekend they're on a hike, every weekend they're going, come on, come with me. We went last week. When is it going to be enough? And so you're going to have that fight. So goals. This is kind of an important one and sometimes a little trickier to find out in the initial conversation, so this can take a bit. But when you ask somebody what do you do? And they say they go to school, okay, if they're in school, automatically, you're in a different kind of category, right? These people are wanting an education. They're willing to pay money to get an education. Hopefully they're willing to do the homework. So already you've got an idea. Okay, this is somebody who goes to school. And then you ask, oh, really? What are you studying? And then depending on what they say, okay, how does that fit with what you want for your life? Because you can tell a lot by what they're studying. Criminal justice versus science, nursing versus education. There are so many different areas that actually do affect the way people handle themselves. So if they say, oh yeah, I'm studying biotechnology, and you don't know what that is, you say, oh really? What do you want to do with that? Well, I'd like to work, and then you can start to figure out what your life would look like. Would they like to work in a lab? Would they like to work in a hospital? Would they like to work with a nonprofit agency that functions mostly out of Washington, D.C. or something like that? You can kind of tell what life will look like for that person. So that's an important thing. Being with someone who doesn't agree with your desire to get an education is so, so tough. So every time you have homework, why are you doing the homework again? We never spend any time together anymore. Really? You're paying our money that we have very little of, and it's going toward tuition? And for what? I'm making more than you right now, and you're still going. And so having a fight about money and school and the time that you spend, it's exhausting, and it's definitely not something that you want to be involved with. Another thing that would work with goals would be religion. So I'm not saying that you have to marry somebody that's the same exact religion. What I am saying is you have to know what you want your life to look like and find somebody else that feels the same way. So if you want to go to your church, your synagogue, your mosque every Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, then you need to say, okay, this is what I want my life to look like. Now, you might be with someone who doesn't really have religion. It's not a big part of his or her life. And so they might say, yep, you go off to church. I'll see you when you get back. Okay, bye. And that might work out just fine. But if you plan to have children together, what will your life look like? If one person is religious and the other person is not. Let's say that it's a Christian who wants to go to church on Sundays. A generalization would be the mom. Mom wants to go to church and wants the kids to come. Okay, kids, come on, it's time to go to church. But dad's sitting on the couch. Mom, we don't want to go. Why do we always have to go to church? I want to stay with dad and watch the game. Honey, come on, help me get the kids out the door. I don't care if they go to church. This is your deal. They're happy to stay by me. So every Sunday there's this fight between, are you going to help me get the kids to church or not? Well, I don't want to go. Well, I need you to go. And is that something that you want to face every single week? Or if you're two different religions, okay, and you have children together, what are you going to do? One religion one week and then switch. If you're really devoted to your beliefs and it's really relevant in your life and it's going to affect your choices, your daily routines, then it's going to affect your relationships. So that's something else to consider. Do you have the same desires that the other person has? Okay? So you said, okay, I want to get to know this other person more, and now you've gotten to know more about them. As I mentioned, sometimes that can happen like in a 4-hour instance, or sometimes it can happen more slowly. But guess what? Again, you still have not gone on a date. You can find this information through good conversation. But this has gone well. Okay, the testing all worked. I think we're kind of on the same page. We're kind of working toward the same type of life. So then you move on to the second part, which is intensifying. Intensifying. Okay, intensifying is where you take the relationship, outside of its normal environment. Normal or typical or already established environment. So let me give you an example. So if you were getting to know this person at school. Intensifying would be the first time that you said, do you want to get together and study? There was a coworker that you have been flirting with at work, and then this is when you, hey, do you want to go out and get a bite to eat? You're taking the relationship outside of the norm, even for friendship. You can have a good time together, and this is when you say, hey, do you want to go watch a movie with me this weekend with a bunch of my friends? Or, oh, okay. So you're taking your relationship outside. If it is romantic, this is when you date, and it's important that you date just the two of you. Do you like each other enough to have it just be the two of you? Because sometimes in this involvement, you are at group gatherings, and so there might be quite a few of you that are interacting. Do you like each other when it's just the two? And you don't have other friends that are kind of bringing up topics and you're all laughing together and creating more of an environment, but this is just the two of you. Do you like each other? Okay? So that's intensifying. And then after intensifying, if that goes well, yeah, I do like them. Now, the third is testing. Now, it's a different type of testing. Okay, so this has to go in this order. And this testing is different because this is where you drop hints. You drop hints and try to figure out how the other person, how to figure out how the other person feels about you. How the other person feels about you. Okay. So I want to be careful that you know that this isn't game playing. I don't want you to think that you have to be secretive and do little weird tests. Well, if he loved me, he would know that it's my birthday and that I'm not saying that. This type of testing is a little different. But when we get involved in relationships, we kind of want to be at the same place as the other person. We don't want to be the one that's, I'm all in, I love this is happening, I want you forever. And this other person is like, hey, I was just having a good time. We want to make sure that we're kind of at the same place, that one person isn't falling more quickly than the other. So let me give you an example. Let's see. So, what are you doing for spring break? That is the testing question. What are you doing for spring break? There's the question, and there is not a right or wrong answer. It's just an informative answer. What are you doing for spring break? Well, a bunch of my friends, we're all going to Lake Havasu. We've rented it. And this person tells you all about their plans. Okay. So now you know where your relationship is. Okay. They are still making their own plans. They have their own life. Okay. So what are you doing for spring break? Here's a different answer. Well, my friends and I, we've rented this place at Lake Havasu. It's going to be, you know what? You should come with me. You should come and meet my friends. I think you would have such, okay. So do you see how that's a different answer? One's not right, one's not wrong. It just means that your relationship is in a place where they're wanting to bring you more into their world, okay? What are you doing for spring break? I don't know. I was going to wait and see what you were doing. Okay, that's a whole different answer. Do you see how just dropping that question, that hint, lets you know, okay, we're at the point in our relationship where we make plans together. All right? So it's not right or wrong. I don't want you to think that if that person has already made other plans for spring break and doesn't mention you, that doesn't mean that you're in a bad relationship. That just means that you're further back, that you might be moving more slowly. Okay? Other times people say, oh, this is my girlfriend. And this is my boyfriend. And they say that for the first time when they're introducing you to somebody else, and you're like, excuse me? We've never had that conversation. You think I'm your boyfriend? And there are some people that get super excited by that. Why, yes, I am. And others are like, that's not happening. And so then they have to have the discussion. We are not together. So they sometimes do that. Do you want to go to my parents' house this weekend for the barbecue? Okay, that could be a little hint to test where you are in the relationship. And when they say, oh, I'm sorry, I already have other plans, but I would really want to. How about the weekend after? Okay, so they really do have plans. They really do want to meet them. You can tell a lot. So that's the type of testing that happens here, because we all want to protect ourselves and kind of be at the same place at the same time. So at this point, you realize you're a good puzzle piece. You've spent time together and you know where you stand. Now you are ready to move on to the intimacy stage of the relationship. The intimacy stage where you commit yourself and you fall in love, you become best friends, you become people that you can rely on and share things with. So in the next video, you'll learn more about the intimacy and the deterioration of this relationship development unit.